Welcome to the June 2nd, 2020 episode of Reactive Consciousness, an in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And we got another great show here for you. Hopefully this is a good time for you to check in on just video game stuff. There's a lot of really bad stuff happening around the country. And it's really ugly right now, especially in Philadelphia, and Minneapolis, and Philadelphia is basically my hometown, so it's really crazy right now. But it's just a crazy time. So hopefully, everybody can get a breath of fresh air or at least a little bit of levity for listening to the news here. Hopefully, this will be a little bit good for you. And also the pandemic going on, so a lot of bad stuff. And I'm sorry that it's all happening. But I did want to bring up some cool things that I thought that were really cool this week. There is a new Samurai Shodown collection happening, and normally I would be mildly excited about it because I'm an SNK fan. I'm a Neo Geo fan, but these have been kind of re-released several times over, and also in piecemeal. You can get them on the Wii or the Wii. Jeez, I'm dating myself.
Well, you actually can.
Well, yeah, but you could get them on the Switch and the PS4 a la carte, and in several different ways. Some of the games have multiple releases, depending on whether you want netcode or not, whether you want to play them online or not. But this is really cool. So Digital Clips is releasing a new Samurai Shodown Neo Geo collection, and it will have a previously unreleased complete title on it. Did you read at all about this? Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I mean, this is something I heard about this a while ago, but weeks and weeks ago, I already ordered the limited run games physical of this one.
Okay. Well, what's particularly neat is the very last Neo Geo game released was Samurai Shodown 5. What was this special, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So that in itself is a kind of a curio, because I don't think they made an AES version of the game, or no, they never made an MVS version of the game.
That is the thing I should clarify. The physical I ordered was special, not what you're about to go into.
Okay. So what's particularly neat about that is that for a long time it also didn't have a port for a while. So it eventually did, but it was just one of those things that was a kind of a curiosity, and it was also the best version of Samurai Shodown 5 because they added back in fatalities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But recently, Brandon Sheffield, who is also the owner of the operator of Necrosoft Games, the people who made Oh Dear Beta, and works with Digital Clips along with Frank Cifaldi occasionally. I don't think Frank Cifaldi is officially affiliated with them anymore, but still kind of works with them from time to time. But apparently they did a deep dive, and they kind of asked the old SNK guard that still works at the company, hey, we heard there was a rumor that there might even be a third version of Samurai Shodown 5. Is that correct? And apparently there had been circulating a photo online of what appeared to be a game called Samurai Shodown Perfect, of a cabinet running it, an arcade cabinet running it, back in the day, not not a new picture. And that was the only evidence anybody ever had. It never came out or anything like that. And they said, and it was one of those Yeah, it existed at one point, and they told
Yeah.
the story, which was really neat. You should go to Brandon Sheffield's Twitter account and read it. But essentially, a another company had sponsored an internal, kind of a secret internal project. Uh, I think it was like the tournament holders of Samurai Shodown kind of sponsored a new version for like bug fixes and things like that for Samurai Shodown special to be upgraded even more, and also have like in-depth story mode. Like apparently, yeah, they added like story scenes to every character.
Damn.
So like this is a big upgrade. It's not just like a small upgrade. And what ended up happening was like a couple guys worked on it in their spare time at SNK, trying to make this happen, and they completed it, and they put it out to test the game in the arcades. In a single location or two locations, something like that, without telling SNK that they were doing it.
That's crazy.
And apparently it was there. It got released for like one day as like a test run, and then like apparently SNK found out about it and pulled the plug. And they of course were mad because it's like their intellectual property. They made a new game and didn't get authorization for it or anything. And Brandon apparently was like, you don't happen to still have some backups, do you? It was like one of those kinds of things, and like of course like the higher ups were kind of there, and they were like looking at him because they're not supposed to have stuff like that.
Yeah, it's great.
And like he's just like, I think I might be able to find something.
That's amazing.
Kind of deal.
I know a guy.
So apparently we have a brand new version of Samurai Shodown 5 that no one ever could confirm existed. It exists and it's coming out.
That's insane.
It's really, really neat. Especially, this would be considered to be the very last official Neo Geo game to have been produced.
That's right, because Samurai Shodown 6 wasn't that, was it?
Samurai Shodown 6, as well as Metal Slug 6, ended up being on the Atomis Wave standard,
Okay.
which is a different... it's a different cartridge system.
Okay, because I remember when I saw the announcement for the new Samurai Shodown Neo Geo collection, I was like, "Where's 6?" Because I got the anthology back in the day because it's on PS2 and Wii, and that has 1 through 6, but that's not specifying Neo Geo.
And I don't think that one has special on it either.
No,
it has like
It
regular
only
5.
had regular 5, which is why I had ordered the physical for special.
I think Special didn't get a release until PS4. I think only recently we have a standalone, like, unless you of course like pirated the ROM or were lucky enough to get a home copy.
It's not like super recent, but relatively recent, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But it's within the current console generation that it's been widely available to people that didn't have an expensive Neo Geo machine and didn't like special order the very last game for it. So this is really, really neat. After that, SNK tried to make a 3D standard that was called Neo Geo 64. So that was another multi games arcade game system that was like plug and play, kind of like this. But unfortunately, it wasn't very successful. It's actually kind of funny. In the current Samurai Shodown game, some of the characters have their Samurai Shodown 64 sprite or polygon get-ups. If you change their costume,
So
you can change their costume to
the
low.
old graphic style then?
It looks exactly like a high resolution version of the low polygon.
Yeah, like White
models.
Day did something like that. The White Day Remastered, where like you could unlock the like the 2001 game, like super polygon, like you know how Metal Gear Solid 4 you
Sure.
can get like a Metal Gear Solid 1 snake
It
face.
just looks bizarre with in high
like
resolution
that.
but low polygon.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Although the funny thing is, for White Day, like, that's not exactly a well-known game, even now that it's been localized. So it's like, what's with this old look? Because it's from this Korean-only PC game.
Yeah, exactly. But I just thought this was a neat story. From time to time we hear about like games that never got released, and more and more frequently we're finding either releases officially or unofficially of games that never had like wide release. Like Nintendo did this with one of their arcade games this generation with Skyscraper or
Oh, sure.
Sky.
Or even Punch Out, because I mean we knew about Punch Out, but like you couldn't play it since the arcades until the Switch.
Yeah, but they had a game that only there was one existing copy of.
Okay.
Like it wasn't even a widely released game back in its time.
And didn't that also happen with like Monster World 4 on like PS3 360?
So that was oh, okay.
Yeah, like Shantae before Shantae.
Westone had a US version of Wonder Boy 2 in arcades that had never come out here. So they had produced a board of it, but had never released it in arcades until the PS3 and 360 era. So yeah, we got an English version of a game that never existed.
Nice.
Like publicly before that. Around that same time, we got an official translation of Monster World 4.
Oh, that's what that was. Okay.
Yeah, so they did two things.
With green hair.
Yeah, and going along with that, I was actually saving this for a little bit later, but why not?
Now we got a segue.
Yeah, exactly. Westone, who is the company that made the Wonder Boy games and released that just as we talked, actually has a fully completed arcade game called Aquario of the Clockwork that had never gotten a release. They may have tested it, but they never produced it. So it never came out anywhere, Japan or otherwise. And they said maybe about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that, that they had planned on shopping around to find a publisher or at least entertaining a partnership with a publisher to release it on modern platforms. Nowadays that we have Super Limited Games is teasing that they are that company now.
Wait, you said strictly limited, right?
Oh, strictly limited games. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's super rare.
Easy.
That's a different
they're
one.
Easy. All those ones are hard to remember.
Well, yeah. What's really annoying is super rare games and special reserve games because they're both SRG.
Yeah. And other than limited run games, like all of them are similarly very smaller, a lot smaller than them.
Yeah, have like a set of indie titles. I think super rare is like Switch only.
Yeah, most of them are Switch only at this point, but I just thought this was really neat that we're getting a beautiful like for a while there we had a single screenshot of this game, and that's all we were going off of. But the artwork looks extremely charming and awesome, just like a lot of Westone Westone releases. I'm wondering whether Strictly Limited is going to be publishing it altogether, or maybe it's only going to be a physical item. That would be very strange this day and age. There has only been, to my knowledge, one game that has an only physical release on the Switch, and it is Space Invaders, the Space Invaders collection.
Weird.
But just like with the Darius collection, I think eventually it will get a digital release.
It would be strange not to.
Yeah, well...
Like, do you want to sell the game or not?
Well, the Darius collection was physical and Japan exclusive for like a whole year, something like that. So, I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't do the same thing with Space Invaders, but either way, I'm if they're advertising that they are publishing this game in some which way, that's really cool. I mean, of course we don't have the details yet, but I mean, it was teased for a little bit, and then they just put out a screenshot and said, "Hey, look at this," kind of thing, and it was certainly that game. So people were speculating, and then they confirmed it. So we'll just have to see what the details are, but really cool stuff. Also, there was a new Dragon Quest game announced. This was actually pretty cool looking. It's called Infinity Strash Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai. Well, that's a hell of a long name and a weird one. For a 2021 release in Japan. Who knows when it'll come to America, but Dragon Quest is reasonably popular now, so it'll probably come. But this looks to be an action game, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I didn't really see much else on it, but also Capcom announced that Street Fighter V Champion Edition Final Season is going to be coming out with 5 new characters and 3 new stages. Of course, we don't know the details behind those.
Yeah, they're really making us wait. Like, how long has it been since Street Fighter V's come out, right?
Well, they have had incremental updates. I think they had.
Oh, they have, but like, they're still doing it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a game as a service kind of thing, which most fighting games are these days. Even Samurai Shodown had two season passes that you needed to buy. Yeah. I mean, that's just the way fighting games are right now, and it's better than having to buy a full new game every single time like you used to.
Yeah, on the Super Nintendo.
Well, I mean, just think about how many incarnations that Street Fighter 2 has. A billion, and there's a million different versions of Street Fighter Alpha, a million different versions of Street Fighter 3, and 4 even had that, but like at least you could do upgrades.
Yeah. You
didn't have to buy, starting with 4 they started doing like the current upgrade system, which is good. You don't have to buy a new $40 game, kind of like when you had to. The last game I remember having to do that with a lot was Guilty Gear. You had to do that a lot with Guilty Gear.
Also, Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Not a lot, but you had to rebuy the game.
Oh, Ultimate? With Ultimate, you mean?
Yeah, I don't think it was compatible to previous iteration.
Yeah, I think that was the last time that happened with Capcom. So thankfully it doesn't happen that way anymore. But I am having a hard time thinking of what characters you would want to add to Street Fighter V that aren't there anymore.
Well, I mean, my guess is 1 or 2 characters from Street Fighter 3 and just new characters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of some new characters always.
I want to see. There's no way in hell they're doing this, but I want to see 12 or like Urian.
Yeah. Well, like Seth was in the last one. Poison was in the last
Seth
one.
Was
Those
in
were
4. Yeah, Poison. Yeah. I think you're right with 4.
Well, season 4? Yeah, season 4.
Maybe they'll add Roxy. Like they don't have Hugo this time around, do they? But they have Abigail.
Yeah, they don't have Hugo, do they? So Hugo's a likely one, I would think.
Just so long as he's not Abigail, also, because we have Abigail.
Probably my biggest want would be just for straight up Mike Hagar to be.
That'd be
Street Fighter.
Amazing bit of fan service.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Hagar hasn't been in a Street Fighter game, I don't think, ever.
I want to see Skullomania from Street Fighter EX.
And it's such a shame because like all of the other Final Fight guys are in
Guy,
Street
Cody.
Fighter. Yeah, and even Poison. And,
they could bring in the Final Fight 2 and 3 characters like Lucia and Maki. Like nobody talks about them.
Yeah, well, Maki would be cool, especially cool, just because like she's a fan favorite from SVC or Capcom vs SNK 2. So
yeah, like nobody talks about Maki. That was the last time she's been in anything, and nobody talks about Lucia.
And there's Carlos from Final Fight 2, and
I don't even remember him. Jeez.
I don't even remember the name of the people from Final Fight 3. Lucia and Dean. Yeah.
Dean, I forgot about him too. Jeez.
Yeah, Dean. Yeah, he had like some kind of electricity powers, something like that.
That's when the game started to get weird. It's like Street Fighter 3. Like, now you got a robot man. Like, what? Okay. Or, no, I said Streets of Rage 3, sorry.
Yeah. But that's always how it goes, by the third one it goes off the rails.
Magic powers in this Final Fight game where you just beat up thugs in a street. Like, what? Okay. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. But always cool to see. But Street Fighter V has always been kind of a contentious game, even amongst fighting game fans and Street Fighter fans. A lot of people still like 4
better. Because they released a shitty, bare bones version of the game to try to cater to the Evo crowd, and in a shocking twist, it turns out that the Evo crowd is not the majority of people who play Street Fighter, which would be the entire goddamn country, and not like the 15 people who make it to the Evo finals.
Yeah, I mean, think about how popular Mortal Kombat is, and it is not like a tournament level game.
But that's not even the point. Like, Street Fighter 5 is, but like the tournament crowd, like, how many people all over the world play Street Fighter, and they're catering to the fucking tournament crowd?
Yeah.
Like, what a niche group.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I understand the desire to do that. We want to make this the best tournament experience, and Evo's coming up soon, but, like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that, like, a smaller game like Dragon Ball Z Fighters can pull it off better.
Well, yeah,
it's like one of those things.
Try catering specifically to Evo and, like, not have anything in the game at all except for a versus mode. Like, there was no story mode in Street Fighter because they've kind of gotten that. There's no arcade mode. Like, really? You don't have fucking arcade mode in Street Fighter?
Mr. Ryu has reiterated that it's not just that. That's
he did
issue.
say Street Fighter 4, I think, like, played better anyway.
Yeah, it's the play style. I'm not savvy enough to know the ins and outs, but he said that it's less aggressive with the way that you play it.
Okay.
Street Fighter V is less. You have to be less aggressive.
I think he did say something about how a lot of matches end with like timeouts.
Yeah, apparently it rewards turtling to some degree, which is what you do when you block.
You'd think that after the game's been out this long, they would have gotten on that.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It plays like it's a unique game. It doesn't play like 4. It plays like 5.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. But like, if you're just running out the clock, then you're kind of doing it wrong.
Yeah, it's boring. I mean, I'm in favor of a game that does ring outs. I like ring outs, but timeouts.
Ring outs, that'd be crazy.
Timeouts are a last resort. It's not considered to be the better a good win by anybody really. So a win's a win, but anyway, not fun to watch. So how would you like to see Pyramid Head in another place where he doesn't belong?
Yeah, if there's one thing I love about Silent Hill, it's remember this character from the 14-year-old game that you liked back in like high school and college. It's like Star Wars. Every fucking Star Wars movie, you gotta at least talk
Darth
about
Vader?
Luke and Darth Vader.
Yeah. Remember Darth Vader? What I'm referring to is Dead by Daylight has announced that they have Silent Hill content coming. Dead by Daylight is, for those who don't know, an asynchronous multiplayer experience where one person is like a serial killer, very like Friday the 13th-esque. And like a bunch of people have to work together in order to defeat him. So and then you may become like the monster the next time around. There are several games like this right now. I mean, Friday the 13th, the actual Friday the 13th game that's out is like that. I think Dead by Daylight was the first of its kind to make this kind of thing work and to be popular. But there's also a Predator game out that's like that right now. But Dead by Daylight also has some other licensed content recently. I think they have Nightmare on Elm Street. Does that sound right?
I have no idea.
Yeah, Dead by Daylight has... it's a very popular game, especially with the younger crowd. It's just one of those things. Let's see here. It has DLC characters from several horror franchises such as Halloween, Left 4 Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, wow, all the big ones except for Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Saw, Evil Dead, Scream, Stranger Things, and Silent Hill.
God
so
damn.
Tons.
That's quite the lineup.
They really have everything except for Friday the 13th, which has its own game. Well, nobody wants
Pumpkinhead. It's fucking cool. Bring me Pumpkinhead.
But yeah, I mean, wow, that's all the big movie franchises, especially from the 80s. Yeah, especially getting Halloween in there is quite a feat. But yeah, it's one of those things where it stinks that, you know, Konami is okay with doing something with Silent Hill if somebody else does it.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. Oh, new Silent Hill announcement? Like, yeah, we gave the licensing rights for Pyramid Head to this one game. Like, great.
But the true Silent Hill fans also know that, like, first of all, Pyramid Head only works as a terrifying and an adversary that makes sense in its own context.
Well, no, I mean, not only that, though, but, like, it's like any movie villain. It works once. When you see Pyramid Head in, like, 3 more games, you're like, hey, it's that guy, instead of, oh my god, what is it? It's mysterious and
creepy. Or
like
the cute version in Bomberman.
Well, then that's not even what I'm talking about. I mean, like, Alien, the movie, was terrifying. Aliens, You're like, oh, there they are, I know what they look like. And they rightfully changed the genre of that movie because now you know what it looks like, so we have to make them scary in a different way instead of it's creepy because it's the unknown. Pyramid Head was creepy as shit because you didn't know what his deal was or, like, what he was doing. And then you see him in Homecoming, you're like, oh, it's you again. And then you see him in Origins, you're like, oh, it's you again. So it just doesn't have that effect.
Yeah. It's just one of those things.
Oh, and by the way, I know he's called the Butcher in Origins. Don't fucking at me. It's Pyramid Head. I know he's not canonically Pyramid Head, but he clearly is.
He's that game's version of him. Head. Yeah, it's that game's version of him. Yeah. But yeah, it's just disappointing that, you know, this is all we get. You know, we don't get a new game with, you know, a villain that makes sense within its own context.
Well, the funny thing is, though, people complain about Silent Hill not making new games, but every single time they do, nobody likes them.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like, at this point, it's like Star Wars. Like,
game.
Less than half of Silent Hill people love.
Yeah, it's such a shame that a lot of Silent Hill fans won't give them a chance because, like, Homecoming was a pretty decent game and Downpour was a good game. Homecoming had a
great story and beautiful presentation. They just decided to go with action and gore, which was really stupid. But the actual story and characters I thought were really well done.
Yeah.
Origins tried to be Silent Hill 2, which was stupid, but it felt and played like an old school Silent Hill game by far the most. Shattered Memories, you can't fight anything. It's just like, oh, it's a runaway sequence again. But it was the most creative of the new ones because it was about, like, analyzing, like, psyche and everything like that. Downpour spread itself too thin. It tried nodding to all the older Silent Hill games that it could, and also had a plot that was trying to be like Silent Hill 2, where, like, my character doesn't remember what happened. Gee, I wonder if he was involved with what happened. Because if he's not, then there's no fucking point in an Amnesia storyline. And then Book of Memories was just a dungeon crawler with Silent Hill skins on it.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah. Meh. It's just like your reaction. Meh.
I mean, like, Silent Hill 2 was great. Do something fucking different. Like, Silent Hill 3 was different.
I like 3 a lot.
Yeah, like, Silent Hill, everything else is like, what if you were involved with whatever creepy thing had happened and you're an unreliable narrator? I'm like, I've fucking seen that. Like, stop having every game reference the same fucking game. Like, even if the games end up being kind of good, there's no tension when you're just copying your old successful properties.
Yeah.
Again, it's like Star Wars. Like, can you make a new and original plot? I don't know how. Can we bring Luke in? Like, fuck off. It's the 9th fucking movie, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Moving on. I just wanted to make a quick announcement that Phantasy Star Online 2 is out on Windows now. That's pretty cool. And in English, I should say, in
yeah, that's
Western
the funny
territories.
thing. It's been out on PC for like 7 years or something insane like that, but in English finally.
Yeah, it's just cool to see it. I mean, I'm not interested, but I have tons of friends that were big PSO fans back in the day.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing. Like, I was interested back when it wasn't new, when they refused to localize it and shut down people who did. Now that ship has sailed. I played Phantasy Star 1 on the or online one, like on the GameCube, and like I heard about 2. Oh, really? And then just like a fucking decade went by. Like, well, guess what? I'm done.
Well, I might consider it. It might be one of those things. Like, if I have a lot of friends who play it, but I doubt it. All of our friends, all of the people that we hang out with, play Final Fantasy 14, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon.
That's true, but I think Mr. Ryu might be into it.
Well, if he plays it, maybe I might dabble a little bit.
I only care about the offline mode anyway, so that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not the offline ship has sailed, but like my interest in PSO has sailed a long time ago.
Some other Sega news. Sega Ages Thunderforce AC is out on Switch. I've talked about this release and why it has been special the last couple weeks. I downloaded it, and it is a lot of fun. I really appreciate having a good port of the arcade version of Thunderforce 3. It's pretty neat. As far as I can tell, it does not have the third game on its own unlockable, but there are ways to play Thunder Force 3 pretty easily, so no big deal there. Also, there appears to be a weird thing going on with Microsoft and Sega. Did you hear about this?
Well, yeah, there were just rumors, like, is Microsoft going to acquire Sega or something like that? I don't know.
So Sega of America will be making this comes from express.co.uk. Sega of America will be expressing an experience during the making an appearance during the Guerrilla Collective Digital Games Fest. Sonic makers have been added to the lineup to the showcase, which will air between June 6th and June 8th. So sometime coming up pretty darn soon. So that's next weekend. Maybe we might even know what they're talking about by then. But apparently, there is. They say that there is a big announcement that will get everybody excited between Microsoft and them.
Come on, Yakuza Ishin, even though that won't get everybody excited.
So the rumor is, or maybe the hopeful is that either maybe Microsoft might be acquiring Sega, or they might be partnering with them to market the Xbox in Japan. That is another rumor that's going around.
Maybe it's Dreamcast too.
I mean, there are even some crazy people suggesting that maybe they are going to be making the Xbox Series X compatible with Dreamcast games. That is not going to happen. No fucking way.
Maybe they'll make the Xbox VMU compatible.
I mean, as cool as that would be, like, first of all, I was a huge Dreamcast fanatic. My online presence is vysethebold is named after a prominent Dreamcast game. I love the Dreamcast. However, almost all of the games have either been all the really good games have either been ported or been made irrelevant by today's standards. I was just about to
say, you don't forget Carrier, don't forget Illbleed.
I mean, there are games that are interesting, for sure, and there are some really damn good ports that haven't maybe been topped, like Gigawing 2, for instance. Like, you can't play Gigawing 2 anywhere else with like 4 players. Like there's stuff like that. Like Power Stone 2 really only really ever got ported to the PSP. That
was a superior version, though, wasn't it?
they added the 2 extra characters from Power Stone 2, they added back into Power Stone 1 in that. So Power Stone 1 is better, but Power Stone 2 is not. It's exactly the same.
Okay.
Something like that. But my point is, like, okay, Shenmue, the people that love Shenmue, all of those games are available everywhere. Skies of Arcadia, available on the GameCube.
Well,
okay.
I mean, at that point though, it's still hard to get.
Yeah, but my point is, there's hardly any exclusives.
The Dreamcast died, and all of its shit was ported to the GameCube and the Xbox.
Yeah, you have Crazy Taxi, which you can get on a lot of different things. Like even Crazy Taxi 2, you can get on more things than just the Dreamcast. Crazy Taxi 3 was on the original Xbox. I mean, maybe this might be a long shot and not as crazy as this, but what if Sega said all of the games that they had made for the original Xbox will be backwards compatible, like including Jet Set Radio Future? That would be cool.
I know you would flip out about that.
Yeah, how about Outrun 2 and Outrun 2 Coast to Coast? That would be awesome. Those are the 2 big games for the original Xbox that really I wish really had a modern port. Outside of that, I don't like Gun Valkyrie. I guess like Gun Valkyrie is a weird game, and this is amongst a person that has. Mach X. Actually, that is a Sega property now, because Mach X was made by Atlas, and Atlas is owned by Sega. So, yeah, I don't know what they're going to say, but my guess is that they're going to probably release a whole bunch of maybe timed exclusives, or maybe just a nice partnership with them for advertising or something like that, and saying that they are going to release a lot of their titles like right up front on there rather than the PS5. That makes sense to me. Dreamcast games, not so much. Being a Sega Xbox One X in Japan doesn't make much sense to me either. I could eat my words, but
it'll be the big announcement for me: a re-release of Soul Calibur 1, which has been done, but this time with the campaign mode.
Oh, that would be really nice.
Because that was the port is like versus only, and I guess arcade.
Oh yeah. It has the story mode, but it doesn't have like the like the special condition thing where you travel around, and
that's what I mean, like the super story mode. Yeah, like the reason that I play the game.
Yeah, no, those were a lot of fun. In fact, I got sick of the game because of that. So
yeah, 1, 2, and 3 had it amazingly. 4 tried something a little different. I wasn't as big of a fan. 5's was kind of lame.
Yeah.
6, I don't know.
Moving on from that, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition was released this week on Switch. I was excited about that. I was able to get the limited edition of that to go along with my.
Just arrived today.
Yeah, good stuff, and it arrived well. Who did you end up? What retailer did you use?
I just used Amazon.
Yeah, I did too. I originally was using Best Buy, but they were difficult to use, so I ended up going with Amazon, and it showed up in good condition. I was very happy. It'll look really good next to my special edition of Chronicles X and Xenoblade Chronicles X, Chronicles 2. Yeah, the special editions of all 3 of these look really nice.
Yeah, they're pretty over the top.
Excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited, and I'm excited that I'm finally going to get to play through this series, because I kept putting it off because I was like, Xenoblade 1 will come out again eventually, and I won't have to break out my Wii U to play it, and lo and behold, it did. So, moving on from that, the newest Shantae game, Shantae and the Seven Sirens, just got released on all the platforms, I believe. And a lot of people are really excited about this, and justifiably so. The Shantae series is really fun, and they're doing something different this time by having several genies in it rather than just her.
Yeah.
So that's really cool and fun. They've always done stuff with like transformations and stuff like that, but this is one that you're interested in as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, sad story. I own all of the Shantae games except for the Game Boy Color one.
Probably the
but
original,
I haven't actually played any of them. So, like, I'm still getting it, but, like, I just haven't actually played any of these.
I own them all except for the newest one, obviously, and the game. I have the Game Boy Color one on my 3DS.
Yeah.
But my problem is that I always make an attempt to play through the first game, and it is the hardest game in the series by far. It's probably one of the hardest Metroidvanias that I've ever played.
Even watching it's a very difficult runs, I was game. Like, oh boy.
The enemies take way too many hits in that game. I'm just gonna out and say it. You know, they take way too much damage. So therefore, it's hard to get through the game. But apparently, the rest of the game is good. Games are great. I'm probably going to just skip the first one and maybe go back to it and go on to Risky's Revenge because of it. Because it's just I've tried that several times in restarting it, and it's a beautiful game, that original game, but it's too hard. And I'm not exactly like somebody who backs down from a challenge too often, but it's too hard, and annoyingly so. Moving on, apparently the PS5 will be revealed on June 4th, so not too long after our release here on Thursday. So when Coricom comes out, you can listen to us, and then after that, after you do the important thing, you can go look up the news about the PS5 and what it looks like.
once you find the name of our podcast in Google, you could scroll down a bunch until you finally find Sony.
It might even be on like one of those other O's in Google.
Yeah.
Remember that? Like they used to have like their additional search results in like several different O's of Google. Like they kept adding O's. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. I'm excited for that. I mean, we don't know what the system looks like. We know what the dev kit looks like, but we don't know what the actual system looks like yet. So that'll be pretty cool. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicle Remastered Edition will have its release on August 27th. I'm mildly excited about this one just because like I tried to run through this with my friends back in the day, and we got very far to beating it, but it's just so hard to coordinate. So we never ended up beating it, and I'm excited to see how they're going to improve it to make it better. User experience. So I'm just more mildly interested than anything.
You're still gonna need an adapter for a Game Boy Advance.
Oh man. And also in a recent interview, Suda wanted to release more games on the Switch, but there are rights issues with a lot of the games. So that's unsurprising, but his will is there. Let's just put it that way. But one thing that was curious, he did like an update on each of them. Like he's like this one has issues with this. This one has issues with that. He didn't mention No More Heroes at all.
Well, that's because No More Heroes 3 is getting released on Switch. Unless you mean the older games.
He didn't mention 1 and 2.
Okay.
So I have a feeling that 1 and 2 are going to make it to the Switch at some point.
I have a feeling Moonlight Syndrome's making it.
I would really like that. Would. What's that?
No, I was just gonna keep going. Like I guarantee Michigan Report from Hell is gonna make it. No, but the thing with Moonlight Syndrome though is that there's one scene in Killer 7 that alludes to it. And it, like, seemingly has nothing to do with the plot. There's just this random anime character who shows up, and that one cutscene, you're like, it is not explained. You have to look it up on the internet and see, like, oh, if you were Japanese, you might get this, because it references a game released in Japan. It's like, what the hell? It was so confusing.
It's also alluded to in the original Danganronpa.
Moonlight Syndrome is?
Yes.
Wow.
There is a game within a game that they talk about. No, it's in the second game, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do not remember.
Yeah, it's in the second game. It's in the second game. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, one of the characters is like a gamer girl in the second Danganronpa, and she talks about a game that is very clearly like alluding to Moonlight Syndrome. So
yeah, Danganronpa 1 did a whole bunch of that, like very heavy nods towards certain like animes
Gundam.
Without meaning them.
Yeah, exactly. But Suda 51 out of anybody would want to release like ports of his old games to new things. So
Fatal Frame 4.
Yeah, that would be cool.
With bug fixes.
Moving on from that, there is a new MSX fan game called Cold Blood that was released recently. I just thought this was kind of cool. It's a combination of Pac-Man and Metal Gear, and literally looks like that, like Pac-Man with an eye patch kind of deal. But the mechanics are like sneaking and maze collection, so it's kind of cool. Let me see here. In other Xbox news, the original Xbox and Windows NT 3.5 source was released. Like,
finally,
by
I could play my CD of Blade Runner.
But yeah, a lot of leaks happening recently, so it's just kind of interesting. And I just wanted to mention here that there was a Panel de Pan release on Switch, which is like the Japanese version of Tetris Attack. That was released in Western territories on the SNES app, and apparently it has an updated version of the original game. It's not like the original game that showed up on the Super Famicom.
Oh, that's cool.
It has like bug fixes and stuff. People are investigating to see whether it is the version that was released on their download service, like the satellite or Satellaview version. So people are looking into that. But I thought it's just kind of cool that they would use like the bog standard version of it, which is pretty cool. Also, 3 new Touhou games, like official Touhou games, are coming to get released this week on the 6th. I can't follow Touhou stuff. I wish I had a better understanding of it all, but there are a billion Touhou games, and it's kind of hard to keep like track of which ones are official and which ones aren't. There's just tons of them. For anybody who doesn't know, the Touhou series was like a shmup series that was independent and had a huge fan base based off of its characters and stuff like that. And the creator said, if you want to make a game using the characters, go ahead. And they have. There are tons of Touhou games that are not made by him, that are on official platforms and everything. It's all allowed, which is pretty neat. I don't know of any other franchise that's like that. Can you think of anything where they're like, hey, go forth and
just do what you want,
do whatever you want?
Not really. I mean, the closest I've seen is companies like Sega looking the other way when Streets of Rage remake is made, but you can't
sell it. Yeah, you can't sell it, and you can't release it on official platforms. It has to be one of those things that you download and play on your PC.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting franchise, and I'm not into it, but I know some people that are, I think Mr. Ryu knows a lot more about Touhou than I do, but it's just something that's interesting, at least, because I do like shmups, so. And also, I kind of wanted to take a quick moment to talk about my the Mister project that I've been talking about recently. I finally got mine all together and working, so it's really, really neat. I also wanted to kind of talk about it with you because you have some interest in FPGA gaming, so it's I figured maybe you at least would have some passing interest in it. But I really like playing Neo Geo games on it so far. Mm-hmm. I haven't tried the other cores. Like there's you could play basically any other system, and I have these like low latency adapters that I attach to it, and it works great. It's just like playing it in the arcade. So nice. I am really looking forward to getting everything to work, and especially like the arcade cores on it, because it's a lot of fun, and not a day goes by where there's a new core that somebody's working on that is very impressive. So I just wanted to talk about that for a quick little bit. And you have a news item as well.
Yeah, I mean, just really briefly, you may have heard of that spaceship for like private citizens that was going to be launched to go to the International Space Station, and it did that just yesterday at the time of this recording, so Saturday. So I saw the live stream of it. It is kind of weird to like see live like a spaceship launch. Like there's been stock footage for who knows how long of like the space shuttle and stuff like that, so it's kind of interesting to see one live. So I get to see a spaceship fly up into space, and it was like I mean, it was astronauts who went up, but it wasn't like this mission to the moon or whatever. It was like an experiment for like a private thing, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think this marks the first time that a non-governmental, yes. A non-government funded flight into space has happened. Mm-hmm. One that wasn't, where the entirety of the components and the space shuttle and everything like that. This was purely made on commercial, on a commercial basis, and it was successful, which is great. Nobody got hurt, which is always the biggest concern for space flight because of how difficult it is. But it's just really, really awesome. It's just one of those things that I'm not a big Elon Musk fan, but
yeah, he's a prick, but like it's interesting that the science experiment worked.
It's cool. It's hard to deny that this is cool. His company's also cool. I just don't like him. Yeah. Like his cars are cool. He has a lot of really good ideas, but he's also like a weirdo. He's a nut, like. Yeah, and not in the good way. He's just. But I think it's cool. I think it's cool that this happened. I just hope that there are several companies that do this, so we could get some competition in the long run. Because one company doing this is a bad idea.
One company doing anything is a bad idea.
Exactly. And I don't want merging to happen in the future. I want multiple companies doing this and offering different things, and challenging each other. So I think that would be the best. Anything else that you wanted to add before we move on for the week?
The only thing I could think of is that a few weeks ago I had mentioned that the second season of Rick and Morty was coming back, and the season's only 10 episodes, so the second half is only 5
season
episodes. 4. Yeah, the second half of season 4 is only 5 episodes. So at the time of this recording, the last episode of that season is airing. So it came and went. So I look forward to watching this after we, finish recording the Recon and CoreCon stuff.
I'm so far behind. I'm still in season 2, to be honest. And to be honest, I could probably use a refresher on season 1. It was a while back.
Deep lore, just like pick up where you left off.
Well, there is a significant progression, like with that series. Like there are significant things that do happen.
There are milestones, but it's like Cowboy Bebop. Like it's episodic, except for sometimes.
Well, I mean, like there was a very important event that happened that really changed like the way that Morty views everything.
But like. You don't always see like those repercussions in the episodes. Like again, it's like Cowboy Bebop. There are some episodes that have these very important things, but then there's the mushroom episode. Like, okay.
Yeah, there is some Monster of the Week stuff going on, granted, but it's one of those things where I like it, so I just kind of want to watch it all. It won't take me long. I'm currently in my spare time watching JoJo here and there, so
yeah, how far are you in that
previously.
Now?
We have he's fighting cars for the first time, so
you're on part 2. Okay.
Yeah, I'm part 2. He beat AC/DC and of course Santana.
Yeah, it was a while back, yeah.
So he has Wamu and Cars, but he's fighting Cars first.
You know, I've sometimes said that part 2 is my favorite part of the series. At this point, I could waver on that, but like the Wamu fight is why I like part 2 so much. It's so good.
AC/DC's is really fun too.
AC/DC's
I really like that.
But the Wamu fight, like reading in the manga, that just blew me away.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I'm doing that while I'm reading 2 manga. I'm reading JoJo part 4, and I'm reading Fist of the North Star. So
interesting.
I'm at the Red Berets in he just beat the guys from Godland in Fist of the North Star, so relatively
I'm afraid
early.
It's been a while, so I don't remember where that was. But
it's right after Shin.
Oh, okay,
right
okay,
after Shin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the one with like the guy who uses like a boomerang or whatever?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So a bunch of Red Berets that have made their own land, and of course they're exploiting all the people because that's what all the bad guys do.
Every single episode of the anime.
Yeah, that's what all the bad guys do in Fist of the North Star. Yeah, they're all the same. They all have the same motivations.
Everyone's an asshole, and everyone has some weird gimmick when they fight.
Yeah, but it's fun.
It is a lot of fun, but it's just like, I bet you didn't expect a boomerang. Like, okay.
But I also was thinking, I was like, every once in a while I forget how weird JoJo is. And then I remember like the AC/DC fight, and I'm like, okay, a bunch of weird shit happened in that.
That fight was disgusting. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's one of the parts of the manga that I got a little squeamish.
Yeah, like the guy is literally fighting with a circulatory system, like inside and out.
But I do love when they reveal that they're going to fight him though. That was like one of the scariest parts in the manga at that point, where it's like they just went through this massive trial where they had to climb this unclimbable tower and they finally did it. It's like, you know what? Your training's going pretty well. Your final test is to go to this arena covered with spikes and fight your master. And he goes there, and the master's been killed by AC/DC. Guess you're fighting me instead.
Shit.
Like, oh, fuck. Because the whole point of doing this was to prepare to fight the Fillerman.
Yeah.
And AC/DC's like, or you could do that now. It's like, oh, no. That was freaking terrifying.
Yeah, so, like, they're dancing on the heads of this spike pit. It's just, it's nutty, and I love it. Yeah, it's so good. That
was such a scary reveal. AC/DC just waiting for him. Like, oh, this. Like, JoJo has a couple moments like that across the entire series where it gets straight up scary. Like, that was one of them.
And that fight just won't end. Like, shit keeps happening, and in ways that you won't expect.
Yeah, I don't know how you think of anything in this manga.
Yeah, no, a lot of it's like it's not like the best storytelling in the world, but it's just like the ideas are just so
it's so clever.
It's so clever and wacky that like it's so entertaining.
Yeah, one of my favorites was Straits the vampire, where he's like, I put a grenade on you, fool. And he's like, but I have vampire reflexes. I could just grab it off my back and throw it off before it goes off. But, like, that grenade was, like, attached to the strings of 5 other grenades. You fool, you pulled the pins on far more grenades in your back. What? It just blows up. And that still didn't kill him. It was amazing.
It's really good. All right, well, we got to wrap things up for this week. That is the show. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and Soundcloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. Helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. We're doing a nice profile like we have been on Sega this time around. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much anything.
And you could follow me in my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
All right, everybody. We will see everybody on Thursday for that discussion on Sega. Catch you soon.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.